Hello, hello, my lovely Cancers. Welcome to Vivid Vibration. My name is Christina. Thank y'all so much for being here with me today. Sorry I'm a little late, but as you can see, I'm in the house now, so whoop whoop. Cancers. Okay, we have the Sustainer, the Queen, the Seed, the Venom, and the Poet. Cancers. I feel like this has just been the theme of our reads lately, right? Like people who want to tell us how we have to be and who we have to love and how we have to love and blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? But like when they do it, they don't even like, I feel like it's not even a conversation that they're willing to have to your face. Like they've already created an entire world war, whatever. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh my God, like, who, what, how, you know what I mean? Like that's kind of like that feeling of like where it gets to the point where it's so ridiculous that you were just like I don't even know. I don't even know. You know what I mean? Like I don't even know what to do. Like what am I supposed to do with that? You know what I mean? And having to really, I want to say like I mean, the only thing that you can do is address it, right? The only thing you can do is say, listen, like shit gets showing down, shit gets nasty, like, but like let's step back a second and really like understand all of the parts of the story and how that impacts other people and it affects us, it affects our families, it affects our loved ones, our friends. Like how does that play out to affect everyone? Because I feel like again it's just been this like we're trying to pull ourselves up out of these energies that have just been like consuming our lives. And I think getting to a place where we're really able to like step forward with confidence and say, listen, like, okay, I hear you. But, like maybe let's do a quick review. First, where did you get your information from? Really, like really and truly. Because I feel like it's like somebody was speaking nasty over you. I know, like when it comes to my family, my mother's out here in these streets talking about how I'm a stripper and I'm on drugs and I'm doing this, this, and this. And I'm like, one, I've never been in a strip club. And two, if it's weed, yeah, duh, mushrooms, okay. Maybe acid a few times, but never, ever, ever, ever when I was around my family. You know what I mean? And it's just kind of like, and anybody who knows me knows how dedicated of a mother I had been. Like I raised my boys, like I did the best that I could. I had them in karate. I took them to their practices. I made sure they had a clean home to come home, like to come home to. So when they were in dirty places all the time, like they came back to me to be clean. You know what I mean? Like to try and train them up in all the things that I could train them up in and read to them every night and cuddle with them and kiss them and love them and praise them. And you know what I mean? And anybody who ever witnessed me being a parent knows that that's the type of parent that I am. So when somebody wants to come at me with how I'm hateful and all I do is destroy things and all I do is da 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 da, I feel like, okay, well, where is that information coming from? Because is it because we're divorced? Is it because I won't let my mother lie about me anymore? Is it because, you know what I mean? Like why? Let's talk about why, right? Obviously that'll play out differently for all of you. If it's a workplace and you're like, like is my coworker spewing shit? Because like you can see how that is a biased piece of information that really isn't going to be all of that accurate or, like any reason to cause the reaction that it's caused. You know what I mean? Like a simple conversation could have solved that issue real quick. But like when you are in a situation where you can't have a conversation without being attacked, it's by invitation alone. Like you learn after a while that like you need to just like keep your mouth shut and stand in the corner and be quiet because everything you say and you do is wrong. Right. And again, it's been that idea of just like sitting in the corners, like being quiet, feeling like it doesn't, like you can't even speak because the second you open your mouth, it's like rage and fury that's motivated from a place of hate and anger. And and you realize quickly in life that you can't argue with hate and anger because it doesn't have a logical stance. It's like trying to find, something you lost in water that's, stirred up by the currents and the storms. And you know what I mean? It's impossible to have a conversation. When you are dealing with people who one, refuse to communicate with you, and two, are always coming at you with a reason to be angry at you, with a reason to hate you, because rather than acknowledge any of the good, they just want to like react off of these ill-informed reasons to like spew hatred at you. But like, when does hatred ever really make sense? When you're dealing with like day-to-day life things and your family and your friends, and like, when does that kind of behavior or energy ever really like have merit? And like, okay, well, I won't say ever really, because like, obviously there are things that people can say or things that people can do that can incite anger, right? And you can have righteous anger, but righteous anger and hatred and malice are not the same thing. And if you have a reason to experience righteous anger and people want to gaslight your experience by creating things that aren't actually real and then dictating how you can and cannot behave and what you are capable of loving and not loving according to some fucking facade of a story that was formed from a place of rage and malice. You know what I mean? Like, what do you do with that, right? And having to go in and really just like, one, take a step, take a beat, right? Because when the volcano is erupting, you do not step in the lava lest you cease to exist immediately. You wait. And then once the lava's cooled, you can go back and you can approach it and you can say, okay, hey, remember before the volcano erupted? Like all of the ways that like I showed up. And remember that when the volcano erupted, it was because of what? Job loss, like family issues, like external circumstances. So it's like, it wasn't really even a character flaw. It was that like the fucking pandemic. How many of us ate it with that? Like, I worked with all small businesses. The first thing small businesses did was pull all of their advertising. I get it. No hate. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not mad at those people, but like also like the way that it affected my life has completely shifted the direction entirely. It's shifted the experience that I've had entirely, right? But like, how do you express that when you're in the eruption? And then going back, and I think again that I feel it was in our last read or one of the other reads recently where it was, like, if you would like to review this, like, it would be my pleasure. And I'm not trying to be an asshole about you. I'm just trying to like, can we just be realistic about me, right? And Cancers, I feel like that's where we've been of this, like, okay, like the lava's cooled. Can we like have an actual conversation and be realistic and logical? Because there's so much at stake here. And it's not something to just be malicious and rageful with. Like, this is something that you take care of, right? This is something that matters, right? And it's just kind of like, I want to say, trying to plant that seed. Or even hoping that like the seed was planted however long ago when you were doing everything right until everything went wrong. And that's like, there are things in life that happen that are out of our control, and that does not dictate our character, right? You cannot, but in our society and our culture, you can oppress somebody who's impoverished, and you can say this is wrong with them and that's wrong with them and da 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 and blah 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 blah, and make it all of that person's fault, and completely ignore the reality of the current economy that we're in. You know what I mean? It's because it's not coming from a place of love or a place of, caring for all of the people who are involved in this situation. It's coming from a place of rage and malice. Cancers. Oof, I'm sorry. That was a lot of that was long, but I feel like that's just a very relatable experience for us right now. however it plays out. Again, if it's not your family and you're not going through a divorce, although I'm sure there's plenty of us out there who have been and, have some stories to share about it all. But like it could just be like the family that you grew up in, like if you grew up in a really religious family and, like you have a parent who just like speaks nasty over you constantly and is shocked when people like you and can't stand you and is competitive with you. And you know what I mean? Like that shit fucks your head, you know what I mean? And then you attract people in like that. And it's just kind of like wherever it started, like you were just kind of like, okay, but let's go back and let's look at the reality of what happened and what went down. And then let's talk about where this anger and this rage is coming from. And then let's talk about how it is that that's preventing us from moving forward. And then let's talk about how it is that we can move forward. It's simple. Because I think the reality of it is again, this idea of like, no, okay, like there was a point in time where I was under so much stress and so much trauma and experiencing all of these things that I literally could not stand up against all of that rage. It would have been like walking into a volcano that was exploding everywhere, right? It would have taken you out entirely. And it's kind of like, okay, but like now that I've moved past it, now that I've gone through things, now that I've overcome other things, you know what I mean? It's just kind of like now I have a better understanding and I'm able to move forward in this like attempt to have this conversation with love, because I can come at it from a perspective of love. Because while I feel like you always loved, there was never a question of whether or not you loved, but it was a question of whether or not you were capable of it. And all of the reasons that you weren't capable of love, like all of the diagnoses that were laid against you, you know what I mean? That like projection, man, 100 projection. But here's the thing is that when people can't control you, then they will, like attack you to control the experiences that you have with other people. Because if I can't have you, then I'm going to make sure that anybody who touches you is like hates you. Why would you do that? That's so malicious. That's such a malicious energy. Like, why would you do that? And yet it's an energy that I think happens regularly. You know what I mean? Like, again, it's that learning to trust. Like, who the fuck doesn't act from malicious behavior and energy? Who the fuck isn't on some shit where they think that the world is their, like it's your world, buddy. I'm just living in it, right? Like where is it exactly that I'm supposed to find this goodness? You know what I mean? And feeling like that for a long time because it's just what you kept encountering. You know what I mean? But you kept encountering it to the point where you started to recognize it for what it was. And then you started to recognize how it is that you were attracting that energy into you. And then you started to realize how it is that you can start to create boundaries so that that energy is no longer welcome, so that you are able to once again operate in love. And I love that. All right, Cancers. The Seven of Cups, the Ace of Cups, the Three of Swords, the Empress, and the Queen of Pentacles. So I feel like there's just this idea of, like say what you will about me, right, Cancers? But I've held on and I've dreamt of the day when everything could be okay again. And it's like I did the work that I needed to do in the hopes that like that opportunity would present itself. And, like what was is no longer. And we've all undergone a great deal of stress and a great deal of change and a great deal of pressure. But I think as a result, like any relationship that we approach now, it's like new phone, who this? Like, I'm sorry, who were you dealing with previously? Because I'm here to tell you that person no longer exists, right? I burned away as much of the bad as I could like possibly get my hands on. You know what I mean? And I took to heart everything that was ever brought against me, and I addressed it in myself so that I could ensure that that was not like, I don't want to carry on, like a generational curse of narcissism. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to do that. Like, I don't want to be that person, and I don't, you know what I mean? And I don't even necessarily know that it was that you were being that type of person so much, again, as people were projecting it onto you. But again, if people are putting that on you, like, there's a point in time where you feel like maybe they're like, maybe it's that, maybe it is me, maybe it's all, you know what I mean? Like, you have to go through that though before you're really able to stand in like the knowledge and the wisdom of who it is that you are. I love the Empress because it's the idea of like the harvest card, and I feel like there's just this idea of like, listen, like, I have spent my, like the majority of my life being trying my hardest to be the very best person that I could be, to please as many people as I possibly could in the hopes for acceptance. Right. And so it's just kind of, again, this idea of like, you can go back on my records and check like all of the times that I tried, all of the times that I showed up, all the times that I did my best. You know what I mean? Like, who was going to all of the Halloween parties and the school parties and all, like, me, you know what I mean? Like, who was doing this, this, and this? Me, right? Cancers. It's like we can go back. You want to like, let's look at it for real. And instead of you being timid and frightened or angry and aggressive, you're like, again, newfound who this. I don't have any anger left. I don't want to fight this anymore. This is ridiculous. Why were we fighting it this aggressively in the first place? Because of some lies and some bullshit from some people who are literally vindictive, terrible people. Like, let's find the good in this and move the fuck on. Sorry, Cancers. This is long. The Hermit. Yeah. Like, I had to take some time to really figure out all of the things, because the things were not ever clearly presented to me in a way that was like straightforward. You know what I mean? Like, I remember this guy that I dated like a gazillion years ago, but we had known each other for like a decade, we just kind of like dated on and off for a few years, and he never wanted to have a title. He was like, I don't like, it's too confining to label anything. And it's like, well, because when you don't label things, then there are no expectations that are set forth. And when nothing is communicated and nothing is discussed, then you can always create whatever story you want, because you took the privilege of creating your own reality, which is, by the way, a total dick thing to do. Like, the apocalypse. Yes. The village. Yes. Arrows, the stone. Oh, God. Yeah. Well, because again, it's just this idea of like going through this massive end and the eruption spewing out all over everything, and you having to really pull away because you got swept down a path that was very, very different from one that you needed to be on or wanted to be on. And you had to figure out some things that weren't even really even being expressed to you personally, just things that you're picking up along the way. Because it's like nobody has enough respect to like acknowledge you as a person. You know what I mean? And it's just kind of like, you're on the other side of that. And even though you got swept away in the bullshit, like, you're coming back to the love that you were grounded in, the love that you embody naturally, without all of this unnatural, ridiculous hate and rage and malice that is constantly at your door. Go away, right? Like, no more. That's not necessary. Stop it. All right, Cancers. I love y'all so much. I hope this resonates. I'm sorry this is a really long read, but yeah, I'll see y'all again soon. Bye.